Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're taking a look at the Grand Blanc, Michigan single-family housing market for June 2025.
Right.
Our goal, basically, to cut through the noise, distill the key stuff from the latest reports, the transaction records, so you get the full picture, without getting totally bogged down.
Exactly. Think of it as your shortcut.
Yeah, your express lane to really knowing what's up in this market.
And what's really interesting, I think, is how Grand Blanc kind of has its own pulse, you know? Even with the bigger regional trends happening. We've looked at a bunch of sources, Redfin, Rocket Homes, Movoto, even some Zillow data from a bit earlier.
Right.
All to really figure out what's actually happening for buyers and sellers. It's a bit of a puzzle.
Okay, so let's unpack the big headline first. Grand Blanc is firmly still a seller's market, especially, they say, in the 48439 zip code. That's described as very competitive. So for folks maybe less familiar, seller's market means, more buyers than homes. Sellers have the upper hand. But what does that actually feel like if you're trying to buy or sell there right now?
Well, connecting that headline to the data, the biggest thing that jumps out is inventory. It's tightened dramatically.
Okay.
If you look back at May, the numbers were kind of all over the place. You saw maybe 140 homes on one report, up to 340 on another.
That's a big range. Why is that?
It's mostly down to different ways of counting. Some count only active listings, some might include coming soon, things like that. But the key point is, by July 1st, so reflecting the end of June, we were down to just 95 single-family homes for sale.
Wow, 95, that's low.
It's really low.
Yeah.
And that kind of drop, it obviously ramps up the competition. It means buyers have fewer choices, need to act faster, maybe have less leverage for things like contingencies.
And didn't we also see mortgage rates dip just a tiny bit in June? I think the 30-year fix was around 6.625%, down slightly from May.
Yeah, just a slight dip.
Not huge, but I guess any little bit helps buyers, right?
Especially when inventory is that tight, it could keep things moving.
Exactly. That little bit of relief on borrowing costs probably is helping fuel some of that demand we're seeing. Which, brings us to prices.
Right, the prices. What are we seeing there?
So for May's median sale prices, again, looking across our sources, we got a bit of a spread. Redfin came in at $273,000.
Okay.
Rocket Homes had it higher at $282,300. And then Movoto was even higher, $310,500.
So why the difference?
Again, different methodologies, different data pools. It really underlines why you can't just look at one number.
Yeah, good point.
For you, the listener, it means you got to do your homework beyond just one app. Understand the comps that actually matter for your situation. But what was consistent was year-over-year appreciation. Like 2 bedrooms were up 4.4%, 5+ bedrooms up 5.8%. So prices are generally climbing. Okay, here's where it gets kind of interesting, though, maybe a bit confusing. Despite being such a strong seller's market, the average days on market, it actually went up compared to last year. Redfin said 31 days in May 2025. Last year it was 17.
Right.
So does that mean homes are actually sitting longer? It seems weird with inventory so low.
It does seem counterintuitive, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But it's a really important nuance. While the average went up, Rocket Homes showed that 67% of homes still sold in under 30 days.
Ah, okay. So most are still moving fast.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What it likely means is that pricing is absolutely critical. Sellers can't just name any price. Even now, 45% of homes sold over asking in May. A pretty big chunk, 36%, according to Rocket Homes, or even 51.2% using Zillow's April data, actually sold under the asking price.
Wow, over half in that Zillow data.
Yeah. So it shows there's this dynamic. Buyers can find negotiation room, especially if a place seems overpriced and is maybe sat for a couple weeks. And for sellers, that means you really need to price realistically. Use the data if you want that quick sale.
Gotcha. So boiling it all down then, what's the practical takeaway for people listening, whether they're thinking of buying or selling in Grand Blanc?
Well, for sellers, yes, inventory is incredibly low. That's your advantage. Leverage it. But don't get greedy with the price. Price it strategically based on recent comps. Overpriced homes might just sit, even now.
Makes sense. And for buyers?
For buyers, you've got to be ready to move fast when the right place pops up. But don't panic. Keep an eye out for properties that maybe haven't flown off the shelf immediately. Those could be your opportunity to negotiate a bit.
Right. Don't assume every house will have a bidding war.
Exactly. And maybe a final thought to leave people with. Something to keep an eye on.
Yeah.
Keep a really close watch on the Federal Reserve and any future interest rate moves. If rates get cut further, given how tight inventory already is in Grand Blanc,
Oh, yeah.
that could seriously pour fuel on the fire. could make this competitive market even more intense, like a real sprint.
Definitely something to watch. All right, that's our deep dive into Grand Blanc for this month. Thanks for joining us.